Look closely at the man stepping into the ring today. Whether he is taking heavy damage from Zhang, being outmaneuvered by Joseph Parker, or negotiating a final twilight payday against Alexander Usyk, the Deontay Wilder we are watching right now is no longer the apex predator we once knew.
I'm not sure if it's the end of his career.
It's over, Ocho, you know it.
You did damage to yourself by going into the ring with dudes that were so much heavier than you. Now you don't have it anymore.
They don't understand, man. Y'all don't understand what we go through, man.
He is a shadow of himself. He is a hollowed out ghost of the most terrifying, devastating knockout artist in heavyweight boxing history.
God has blessed me with tremendous power.
But to heal the fractures in his mind and escape the suffocating rage that helped him build his career, he traveled thousands of miles into the jungle to experience an ego death through ancient plant medicine.
The outlook of the world is so different. It's like bringing more clarity and love up in your heart. All the things that you can figure out how to get rid of, certain hurt.
In clinical terms, he successfully cured his soul. But in the unforgiving reality of the sport of boxing, he committed career suicide.
Just not the same, in all honesty. Just feel that his belief's not there anymore, and you've got to ask yourself why.
He killed the very monster that motivated him to be one of the scariest punchers in boxing history. The story of his meteoric rise cannot be framed as a romantic cinematic quest for athletic glory, nor can it be dismissed as the ego-driven pursuit of fame and luxury. When you strip away the mask underneath the bronze bomber and the viral knockouts, you realize his entire career was fundamentally built on an exercise in desperate human survival.
There's no way you'll beat Tyson Fury. There's no way you'll beat Usyk. There's no way you'll beat Anthony Joshua.
This is the depressing downfall of Deontay Wilder. Welcome to Redline Theory. In the spring of 2005, a young man with absolutely no elite amateur boxing pedigree was confronted with an impossible, terrifying reality. On March 20th of that year, the birth of his daughter Naiya fundamentally altered his trajectory, transforming a life of relative obscurity into a high-stakes, agonizing battle against biological cruelty. She was born with spina bifida, which is the most common permanently disabling birth defect in America, characterized by the incomplete development of the spinal cord.
You seeing your daughter on a table, doctor sticking needles in her, and she's screaming, looking up at you, crying and reaching out for you, man. I couldn't take it. She probably would never have a natural childhood. She probably would never walk because most kids are in wheelchairs or are paralyzed from the waist down. I was scared, man.
This newborn infant faced severe physical limitations and catastrophic financial challenges right out of the gate. Driven purely by the terrifying necessity of providing medical care for a sick child, the sport of boxing was never chosen as a passion project. It was mandated as a financial lifeline.
But she's amazing. Oh man, I'm so proud of my daughter. It allows me to continue to be strong in boxing. You know, it's like we feed off each other's strengths.
This incredibly late entry into a highly technical, unforgiving blood sport left him with a glaring mechanical deficit. Elite boxing fundamentals, the intricate footwork, the subtle defensive head movement, and the nuanced distance management that keeps fighters alive take decades to master. He did not have decades to learn how to slip a jab. He had hospital bills to pay right now.
He came in the gym. We started on a few basic moves. I went to the other side of the gym and left him alone. Usually when you do that, the guy doesn't do very well. I looked over, Deontay was doing exactly what I asked him to do, which is very rare.
To compensate for this massive void in his skill set, a dual-layered mechanism of survival was engineered. Physically, he learned to rely entirely on a devastating right hand that seemed to defy the laws of physics.
We understood that I had something special, you know what I mean, that couldn't be taught. You know what I mean? It's God-given, and that's God-given power.
Psychologically, however, something far more dangerous was constructed deep within his mind. He built a manufactured delusion of divine invincibility.
How can you defeat a guy that he's not doing it for himself? And no man in the square ring is gonna be able to beat me because I bring my children with me. I've already promised them that, and I gotta keep my promise. It ain't nothing personal for no fighter in the industry.
When a father is fighting for his child's literal survival, self-doubt is a luxury his brain simply cannot afford to process. Fear must be eradicated, or at the very least, it must be buried beneath an impenetrable layer of psychological armor. He meticulously engineered an absolute, unshakable God complex, convincing his conscious mind that he was quite literally unstoppable.
Tyson Fury. Oh, where can he be? For he's the next man that I want to see. Sheffield, England. Do you agree?
This towering arrogance, which the media and the public often mocked as delusional vanity, was never an act of mere ego. It was a highly specialized, clinical survival mechanism. By convincing himself that he was a predestined conqueror blessed with supreme power, this human being was successfully insulated from the paralyzing reality of his daughter's escalating medical bills and his own fundamental boxing deficiencies.
I had a lot of aggression. I had a lot of anger. That's why I'm a man of my word now. You know, if I tell someone something, you can take it to the bank. You know, it's gonna happen.
This manufactured delusion became the bedrock foundation of a global empire, carrying him to a bronze medal at the 2008 Olympic Games, and eventually manifesting as a historically destructive, terrifying reign as the world boxing heavyweight champion. But the exact psychological armor required to survive this meteoric rise was the exact poison that guaranteed his total destruction the moment reality violently punched back. For years, this psychological armor remained entirely untested by elite technical resistance. His trajectory was validated by a long, carefully curated sequence of lesser competition, where raw, unpolished knockout power repeatedly bailed out his obvious mechanical flaws.
Who on Wilder's resume we gonna say, wow, yeah, he was a good fighter and Wilder beat him? Who are we gonna look at on his resume?
When plan A doesn't work, there's a plan B. When plan B doesn't work, there's a plan C. Being able to fight multiple ways, being able to fight on the inside, being able to fight at range, being able to fight, you know,
at a distance, in the pocket.
Distance. You know, he didn't have all those different tools in his bag.
Because he didn't learn them.
Some of the other, but at that point, it's too late because you are who you are at one point.
His God complex was continuously fed by every single concussive knockout, reinforcing the manufactured delusion that raw power could somehow override the established laws of boxing science. He was living inside a very dangerous echo chamber of his own devastating power. But this carefully calibrated ecosystem of invincibility was mathematically destined to collapse the absolute second it collided with undeniable reality. That undeniable reality arrived in the form of Tyson Fury. Against a generational talent possessing elite, fundamental boxing science, unpredictable movement, and a massive physical frame, raw power was suddenly, terrifyingly insufficient.
I am no challenger for no man. I am the lineal heavyweight champion of the world. That means I'm the best of the best, the elite champion.
He's 6'9", incredibly athletic, great footwork, and didn't choose another sport where he could have made so much fucking money. Nobody in history could beat him in a boxing match. How crazy is that?
The subsequent encounters between these two men did not just result in just a physical defeat. They represented a systematic, surgical dismantling of a carefully constructed psychological reality. Over the course of their first fight, a highly controversial draw where Wilder's devastating equalizer barely saved the delusion at the very last second.
Everyone knows I got heavy hands and I hit hard. And I literally seen this man's eyes rolling in the back of his head. When I seen Jack on the ground with him, you know, checking him, I'm like, it's over, you know. Only God knows how he got back up.
Much more significantly, during their second fight in February of 2020, the raw power was effectively neutralized. The physical beating Wilder sustained in the ring that night was brutal, culminating in a devastating 7th round stoppage where he was battered from pillar to post.
I've been having nightmares. I can't get over what I saw. Ladies and gentlemen, that was an ass kicking.
It was bad.
It was bad.
We knew Fury was a better skilled boxer, can pivot, can move around, but I'm surprised, I'm shocked with how easy he made it look.
But the physical trauma was entirely secondary to the psychological devastation. The mental break was the true fatal casualty of the bout. The absolute illusion of the unstoppable monster, the precise avatar created to protect a vulnerable family from poverty and a fragile mind from creeping doubt, was shattered on live television in front of millions of people. The armor failed entirely. The terrifying right hand was parried, it was slipped, and it was aggressively countered.
The only person that's ever gotten up from that punch is Tyson Fury. You hit that guy hard as you can.
Yeah.
He doesn't see that punch.
Right.
You knock him down, and he sits up like the Undertaker.
Yeah.
Take off running, because you hit him with your best shot.
Yeah.
When a psychological construct designed explicitly for life or death survival is breached so violently, the ensuing damage is absolutely catastrophic. Reality violently infiltrated the psychological armor, confronting his mind with the horrifying truth that he was neither divine, nor untouchable, nor infallible. The survival mechanism that had successfully kept the terror at bay for over a decade was abruptly destroyed, leaving his psyche entirely exposed, raw, and hemorrhaging confidence in the way he had never experienced before. The ensuing aftermath represents the darkest, most clinical act of this entire psychological breakdown. What happens when a man who has convinced himself he is a god is suddenly proven to be entirely mortal? When a narcissist or someone operating under a manufactured deity complex is faced with undeniable, humiliating public defeat, the ensuing cognitive dissonance triggers an automatic, systemic internal crisis. The brain, absolutely frantic to protect the ego from complete structural collapse, simply rejects reality entirely. The frantic search for external scapegoats becomes completely necessary for his mental survival.
I broke my hand, so I only had one hand. The right hand was it was very off in camp. I didn't want to throw it to injure it even more. I felt like if I reserved it and throwed it in the fight, then if I broke it in the fight, then I'm getting paid.
The excuses manufactured in the immediate aftermath were elaborate, bordering on the conspiratorial, and each one was explicitly designed to patch the gaping, bleeding holes in his psychological armor so he wouldn't have to accept that he was simply beaten by a better boxer. He claimed that the 40-pound Black History Month costume he wore to the ring drained his legs before the opening bell, which brilliantly externalizes the physical exhaustion, transferring the blame from his own athletic inferiority to a heavy, inanimate object.
This might be the most embarrassing excuse that I've ever heard for a guy losing the fight. The outfit that you wore to the ring, wearing over 40 pounds, is why you think you lost this fight? That's just embarrassing. I mean, it's just embarrassing.
He then leveled shocking allegations of spiked water, aggressively accusing his own training team of slipping muscle relaxants into his water bottle.
Then yesterday there was an article that said that he believes that his water was poisoned
by his own trainer.
And Mark Breland was a part of that.
He went on to assert that his opponent's gloves were either unstuffed or illegally modified, which protects the ego by suggesting the massive damage he took was the result of illegal weaponry.
He flat out cheated. That wasn't the best man, that was the coward.
There was a bunch of people saying that Tyson Fury's gloves weren't attached correctly, so the gloves were extended.
Some of these comments is just, it's quite insulting. I mean, to sort of like throw accusations like that at a fellow professional.
These are not the calculated, cynical lies of a con artist looking for a rematch. They are the involuntary, uncontrollable spasms of deep cognitive dissonance. The termination of his assistant trainer, Mark Breland, is particularly illustrative of this terrifying psychological spiral. Breland, functioning purely as a protector, recognized that Wilder was taking irreversible, life-altering brain damage and executed his fundamental duty to save the athlete's life by throwing in the towel.
Fortunately, Mark Breland, who I believe is a great coach, but an even better person, is getting thrown under the bus. I don't agree with it. Deontay was upset after the fight that his corner threw in the towel. Did you have an issue with them throwing it in?
No, he did the right thing. And it was done by the right person. Yeah, he was the assistant trainer, but it's Mark Breland, who was a fighter.
But the exact same rage and reality distortion field that built his empire inside the ring was now actively burning down his life outside of it.
The truth shall set you free.
This profound lack of accountability and the subsequent psychological spiraling inherently poisons the surrounding environment, because collateral damage is unavoidable when an individual becomes trapped in a perpetual trauma response. Reports heavily suggest that this internal collapse severely impacted his life outside the ring, culminating in the breakdown of his long-term personal relationships. And the spiraling took its absolute toll, evidenced by reports of a restraining order filed by his former fiancée, Telly Swift.
Wilder being sued by his ex-fiancée, and there's some pretty shocking allegations.
Broken, spiraling, and desperate to fix the agonizing cognitive dissonance that was tearing his existence apart, the search for peace necessitated extreme, unconventional measures. The traditional frameworks of sports psychology, therapy, and athletic recovery were entirely insufficient for a psychological fracture of this staggering magnitude. To heal the man, the athlete turned to ancient plant medicine, traveling far outside the realm of professional boxing to embark on an intense ayahuasca journey in a desperate attempt to find the fragments of his mind.
Shoot, the outlook of the world is so different. It's like bringing more clarity and love up in your heart and confirmation and all the things that you can figure out how to get rid of, certain hurt, heartaches, certain trauma that has happened.
The pharmacological and psychological function of ayahuasca is profound, terrifying, and deeply disruptive to the human operating system. The psychoactive compound DMT systematically disrupts the brain's default mode network, which is the specific neurological center responsible for the maintenance of the ego, the concept of self-identity, and the rigid defensive boundaries between the self and the external world. Under the heavy influence of this medicine, the brain is forced into a literal, agonizing ego death. The rigid, protective layers of identity are violently peeled back, and the blinding rage, the manufactured God complex, and the elaborate protective delusions required to survive the reality of his daughter's illness and his own fundamental insecurities were stripped away and dissolved into nothing. In their place, the terrifying void was flooded with empathy, absolute calm, and deep, unshielded self-reflection. The trauma was finally processed. The defensive architecture that took him decades to build was permanently dismantled. The man, in all clinical respects, was finally healed.
They don't understand, man. Y'all don't understand what we go through, man. And I don't even know him like that. But I always be an advocate for us because
You cannot feel bad for the man you are trying to render unconscious. The very demons that the athlete successfully killed in the jungle during the ayahuasca ceremonies were the exact same demons that pulled the trigger on his continuous downfall. When the new version of Wilder stepped into the ring after the ego death, he had humiliating encounters with Joseph Parker and Zhilei Zhang. Wilder was healed, became an empathetic man. The manufactured delusion of invincibility was entirely gone, and the blinding survivalist rage that kept him moving forward through the fire was entirely extinguished.
He had a great run. He had a tremendous run. I'm not sure if it's the end of his career.
It's over, Ocho, you know it.
I would like to see him fight again, but fight competition where he can get some of his confidence back. Woo!
Because of this, he was left fundamentally defenseless against men who still harbor their own dark monsters. Wilder was hesitant in the ring. He could not pull the trigger on his devastating right hand, which eventually led to 2 brutal knockout losses. The exact cure for the human soul proved to be the lethal poison for his athletic career. But to view this strictly through the narrow sports talk radio lens of individual failure or athletic decline is to completely miss the massive, broader systemic machinery at play. The ecosystem of professional boxing is a brutal, entirely transactional machine that requires broken, traumatized, and rage-filled men to bleed for global entertainment. The final truth of this psychological breakdown requires a complete pivot away from the cold, unforgiving metrics of the sport. The boxing world, governed strictly by the shallow statistics of wins, losses, and highlight reel knockouts, views the current state of Deontay Wilder as a tragic, pathetic downfall. Casual observers mourn the loss of his terrifying aura, commentators harshly critique his diminished reflexes, and the internet constantly mocks his absent aggression and newfound emotional vulnerability.
There's no way you'll beat Tyson Fury. There's no way you'll beat Usyk. There's no way you'll beat Anthony Joshua.
I saw a knockout. What else was there to say? I mean, I don't think you need Teddy Atlas to explain that to you.
Just not the same.
Yeah.
In all honesty, you know, just feel that his belief's not there anymore, and you know, you've got to ask yourself why.
Yet when we look at this from a humanistic view, this entire narrative is unfair. In actual reality, a massive, unprecedented human victory was gained. Wilder sacrificed the boxer to save the man, but in exchange for the athlete's inevitable demise, an enduring, priceless peace was finally secured. The collateral damage in his personal life has been halted. The spiritual spiraling has ceased. The individual who remains standing today is a better man, a calmer father, and a fundamentally healed human being who no longer requires a manufactured, exhausting delusion of invincibility to justify his own existence. The system of professional boxing will inevitably discard him, leaving him behind as it moves relentlessly on to the next traumatized combatant who is willing to trade their physical longevity for a fleeting taste of glory. But escaping that massive blood-soaked machine with one's soul intact is the ultimate rarity in this world. Losing his ego, the very psychological armor that built the empire and subsequently threatened to destroy his entire reality, was the greatest, most definitive victory Deontay Wilder could have ever achieved. This is Redline Theory. Thank you for watching.
They don't understand, man. Y'all don't understand what we go through, man.